Welcome back to the Other Rough podcast. As always, my name is Nate, and joining me as always is my co-host Jake. Jake, how we doing today?
Doing pretty good, Nate. Quick shout out to Wyndham Clark. You were there, so I'll let you take the reins on how Sunday went, but definitely an interesting tournament. I single bulleted Scotty, who felt like the door was open the entire week, and he just kept stubbing his toe and just not. It was brutal. But look, Wyndham Clark got the wave advantage to start. He capitalized on it right away, and he did everything in his power to get rid of his lead as quickly as possible and make himself sweat and really battle it out. But good on him. Crowd was against him the whole time. I'll let you speak on that, but ended up prevailing and getting it done. So two-time US Open winner, two-time major champion, Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of an obscene thing to say about a two-time U.S. Open champion being Wyndham Clark, but yeah, was on the grounds yesterday at Shinnecock Hills for a fantastic venue, a fantastic host. Like I was blown away by how easy it was to get in and out of there without any major hiccup or travel. It was insane how easy it was. Just a fantastic course, viewership course. It was great all around. But yeah, the fans were definitely against Wyndham Clark, and to a point where it shouldn't have been the way it was. Like there was a lot of obscene things yelled at him, and every time he would miss a shot, they would cheer against him and everything. And then it turned into, at first it was Scotty because he was playing off with Scotty, and then Scotty got absolutely nothing going on Sunday. Could not hit a putt to save his life. Couldn't even hit, like, nothing was going in his favor. Like absolutely nothing. Missing fairways off the tee. Not approach wasn't even there. Beyond that, then they shift to Sam Burns, and Sam Burns made that run, and everyone was on Sam Burns. And of course, sitting there in 18 when Sam Burns missed by an inch or whatever it was that would have ultimately sent him to a playoff with Wyndham Clark after, missing that 8 footer going downhill on 17 as well. But yeah, got to shout out Wyndham Clark. Everything against him, the adversity of the crowds, blew his lead right away. It wasn't right away, right? 6 strokes. It was slowly coming, all the way coming down to 18, and had to perform at 18 to get it done, and he did. He did. He had some crazy, crazy shots, especially at 9, where he was off the green of the fescue. Somehow got the ball within a couple feet of the hole, saved par there, just all day. Then he had that birdie on 10, I believe, right after that. That 9-10 stretch was basically what won the tournament. Without that, and he was off the fairway all day, somehow saved. Like the scrambling all week was a masterclass of golf. So you have to tip your hat to Wyndham Clark, and again, everything he went through, deserving winner nonetheless. And it was a fantastic tournament.
Yep.
Yeah, there was no DP World Tour last week, so we do roll into this week. We moved from the U.S. Open to Travelers Championship, of course, on the PGA Tour, final signature event of the season, and then we move to the Italian Open. What is it? DS Automobiles 83, Italian Open, whatever it is, right? So we have that on the DP World Tour this week. We'll talk about those here shortly. But before we do have things, Jake, we're providing you on social media.
Yep, you can find me on social media at JakeOOTR. I post all my outright betting cards, so just be sure to give me a follow and definitely check that out. Also, be sure to join our Discord, which is completely free, no hidden paywalls. We have over 275 members, ranging from diehard golf fans to professional gamblers, all sharing insights that make it an awesome resource to have. Nate runs our community wager tracker in the Discord, where he compiles everyone's picks into one clean list. It's great for seeing who the community is backing and celebrating the wins. Nate and I also share some exclusive content in that Discord. I post tournament and round matchups. Nate posts first round leader bets. If you want the link, just reach out to either of us and we will get you the link to join there. Also, check out ootrough.com for all of our weekly articles. Andrew covers the Hotel Planet Tour and Corn Ferry Tour. Nate covers the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, Live, and LPGA. And I cover the PGA Tour, including some DFS content. You'll also find Nate's Strokes Gained Putting by Grass Type on there, another great free resource to have at your disposal. So again, that is on ootrough.com. Be sure to check that out.
You can find myself, Nate, on Twitter at NateOOTR. Be sure to follow Out of the Rough from all from social media. Just search us up. You'll find us there. Whatever outlet you are listening or watching this podcast on, please hit if there's a subscribe option on whatever outlet, a like, any form of interaction. Definitely helps this podcast grow. So we'd greatly appreciate any form of interaction along the way. Leave a comment, say hi, tell us what you think about our picks, anything like that. We'd greatly appreciate it. Of course, ootrough.com. Jay talked about that. You also find the Out of the Rough One and Done, a weekly game for the PGA Tour, DP World Tour. Pick a different golfer each week. Prize money is scoring. You can find the link to subscribe to the newsletter as well, which is a weekly compilation of everything we offer, including exclusive placement charge for each and every PGA Tour, DP World Tour, and LPGA event that is to cover with historic data as well. Yeah, the Discord, of course, Jake talked about that as well, but a free tool, there's no reason not to check it out, right? There's a lot of great conversations at all times. There's exclusive content. There's more than just golf. With World Cup going on, there's a lot of football and or soccer talk in there. We do have a pretty active racing community as well, so be sure to check all of that out. All right, let's move forward here to the Travelers Championship. And Jake, this is an event you frequent. Are you going again this year?
I'm not going this year, unfortunately. I will be on vacation over next week, but yeah, I was really bummed to miss last week, really bummed to miss this week, but I have been to this course a ton and it's a good one.
Yeah, and so we have the U.S. Open behind us, right? Always the grueling tests. We move from Shinnecock Hills, and the way the crow flies, you can get to Cronwell, Connecticut, where TPC River Highlands is pretty quickly. But if you're traveling by vehicle, unless you're taking a ferry, you have to go all the way around to get back up there. But not too far north of where we're at here for TPC River Highlands, Cronwell, Connecticut, 74th playing this event, of course, the last signature event of the season. And this is an event that annually draws the second largest crowd of any PGA Tour event. Of course, WM Phoenix Open being the number one. So you're going to get that stadium-esque feel here at TPC River Highlands. You're going to get large crowds. You're going to have some fun, and it's more of a viewership thing than not, right? This is a way to grow the game in a sense with the WM Phoenix Open as well. The event started in 1952 as the Insurance City Open, of course, moving to various names from there. It has been held at TPC River Highlands since 1984. Field this week, of course, signature event. We know who we are getting to see. Scotty Scheffler's in the field, but of course, Rory McIlroy, who typically does not play an event after a major, just as Scotty doesn't play the event before a major. So Rory McIlroy will not be in attendance this week. You have your Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele's, Ludwig Oberg, Sam Burns, Matt Fitzpatrick's, Cameron Young's, Justin Thomas's. All those guys will be in attendance this week. And of course, Captain Keegan Bradley, defending champion, coming from behind to take down Tommy Fleetwood, who had the tournament in his hands. He was going to win that, then decides to do some layups on 18, allow Keegan Bradley to just lap him. And of course, Russell Henley came from behind as well and tie Tommy Fleetwood for a T2 there. Keegan Bradley also won here in 23, and this is a quote-unquote home event for Keegan Bradley, being from nearby Vermont. This is kind of like the New England's encompassing golf event, so it is a bit of a home field for him. Let's see, we have Xander Schauffele won here in 22, Harris English in 21, and Jordan Spieth in 17 as other former champions. So TPC River Highlands, a par 70 at 6,841 yards. Of course, being a par 70, only two par 5s on the golf course, so those must be taken advantage of every time you come to one of those, just as we saw last week at Shinnecock Hills. Fairways and greens are a bent grass, as the rough is a thick bluegrass. Founded in 1928 as the Middletown Golf Club before becoming the Edgewood Country Club in 1934. The PGA Tour bought the venue in the early 1980s, and of course, now TPC River Highlands. Upon acquisition of the PGA Tour, the course was redesigned by Pete Dye himself, and shortly after opened as the TPC of Connecticut in 1984. We have seen some various modifications, of course, throughout the years, most recently in 2016 with the addressing of the bunkers to restyle them, and of course, incorporate a new drainage system. This course is known for its three-hole stretch nicknamed the Golden Triangle that includes holes 15, 16, and 17. The 15th is a drivable par 4, the 15th a 170-yard plus par 3 over water, and the 16th is the par 3. 17th is a 420-yard par 4 with water in play. So these three holes here combine to offer great drama and spectacular views down the stretch. It is one of the shortest tracks annually played in the PGA Tour as well. The fairways and greens alike historically rank as some of the easiest to hit in the PGA Tour. Driving accuracy numbers sit around 70%, which is roughly 10% higher than the PGA Tour average. Previously mentioned, the event is the second highest attended event on the PGA Tour, so we're going to get large crowds, people getting rowdy. You're going to have fans for and against people. It's going to be a way where people either buy into it or they try to, take the villain route and play against it. Some people crumble, some people thrive in an atmosphere like this. So we'll see who comes out on top. And playoffs are a bit of a norm here at TPC River Highlands. 6 of the last 15 events resulted in one. We'll see most recently back when Tom Kim squared off with Scotty Scheffler 2 years ago in 24. We saw a playoff. Of course, we had the what do you call that? The guy who ran on the green and ran through the bunker and threw sand everywhere. That was that year as well, up on 18. 18 is the scene of many famous or infamous walk-off hole outs over the years, most notably Jordan Spieth in 2017. And all this is a classic parkland setting that does have some man-made water hazards that come into play on 5 of the holes. Jake, being a frequent attendee of this event, anything to add here about the golf course and/or event?
I think you covered it really well. It's going to be a fun one to watch. A lot of birdies,
Yep.
very different from what we saw last week. This is one where it's approach and the greens are very small. So you either have to be able to scramble really well if you're missing those greens, and chip ins are going to be not surprise at
Yeah.
anywhere. It's not too tricky around the green, but also you're going to need to keep pace. You're going to need to be able to make some putts. Definitely scared me off of a couple people this week, just not being able to keep the pace. But again, we're moving back into what I would consider a classic birdie fest in
Mm.
quotes. So again, keep that in mind. And if you're playing Siwoo Kim, who can't really make a putt to save his life at times, and JJ Spawn, just just hold on tight.
I do have to say, in reference to Siwoo Kim, Sauce, I told you so last week on the podcast. Don't play Siwoo Kim. All right, moving on to our betting cards. Jake, I have 6, you have 4, we have one crossover. So I'll start things off here with Matt Fitzpatrick, 22 to 1. Any course we come to, Matt Fitzpatrick's going to pop he's first on tour in both approach and around the green. So Jake literally just talked about how you have to have a strong approach. If you don't hit the greens, a strong around the green game. So you have number one in both of those aspects right here in Matt Fitzpatrick. He's also second on tour, tee to green and bogey avoidance. He's third in green regulations. He's 10th in par fours. 14th in hit fairways, 25th in proximity to the hole from 125 to 175, and 25th in birdie or better. So he gets those birdies in a hurry when needs to. 46 off the tee. The list goes on and on here. 64th in strokes gained putting, bent grass, of course. OOTrough.com for strokes gained putting per grass type data at your fingertips, completely free of charge. 22nd last week of the the U.S. Open. Prior to that, second at the RPC Canadian Open, 36th at the Memorial, 14th at the PGA, 52nd at the Truist, and won both the Zurich Classic and the RPC Heritage. 17th here a season ago. He also placed 36 and 24, 49th and 23, and missed the cut in 2020. Great form, insane golf currently out of Matt Fitzpatrick. Any type of course we come to, he's going to be in contention each and every week. And I think this is a great, fit for him to get another victory in the season where he bounces back from, wasn't a bad U.S. Open performance altogether, but a second at the RPC Heritage or RPC Canadian Open the week before. Great form, great course fit. Jeez, can't talk. I'm tired, Jake. I've been running on no sleep for the last 3 days, getting to and from the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I love Matt Fitzpatrick. He was the first one off my card this week. I just couldn't squeeze him on there, but the season long stats have been phenomenal. In particular, the approach has just been insane. 4 wins in his last 20 or so starts, including one on the DP World Tour, 3 on the PGA Tour. Just playing some of the best golf we've seen in his career. Can't fault you for going there, especially at the number. I mean,
Yeah,
anything
22 is
over 20 to
insane.
1 on a guy with this good of stats just seems, dare I say, like a no-brainer. And I'm the idiot who didn't put him on my card this week, but I really like Fitz this week. The course fits him really well, and it would not surprise me at all if he lifts his 4th PGA Tour trophy in 10 or so starts.
Yeah, and on a certain book where you can kind of create your own boosts, I used a boost on him as well. So he sits at a better number than 22, technically on my card, but don't like to advertise boosts because not everyone has access to those.
Yep. All right, moving into my first play here, I went with Justin Thomas. I got him at 29 to 1. He's going to be awfully
Hmm.
popular this week. He's played TPC River Highlands really, really well over the last 3 years. A T9 back in 2023, a T5 in 24, and then a T9 again last year. Generally the putter is where JT can kind of falter a bit, and that driving accuracy. He seems to have found some, he's the greens at TPC River Highlands, he seems to find, positive with the putter, and the driving accuracy has been really good over the last couple weeks. He's found himself in some really good form. He has 4 straight top 25 finishes, including a 17th last week and a T4 at the PGA Championship, which was his best finish in a really long time, I think, since he won the PGA Championship back in 2022. The irons are just turning the corner. The putter's been pretty hot. The around the green is really good for JT. Just a lot of positives for him. I think he's going to win on the PGA Tour this season. I'm very adamant about that. And for that reason, I have him on my card at 29 to 1 because I think it could very well be this week. 33rd in strokes gained total, 64th off the tee, 76th on approach, 9th around the green, and 69th putting. Again, that's the story of the whole season. It's been much better in the shorter term for JT, and I thought 29 was fair, so I started my card there.
No, definitely fair, especially with the course history here at this event. I mean, there's a reason he plays well here with what, two top tens in his last three appearances here. It's the golf course that fits what JT does. Great approach play, scrambling around the green when you need to, and he can get birdies. He can really pour them in real quick as well. We'll see what comes of it, but again, we can't fault the guy at basically 30 to 1 who has two top tens at this golf course. While arguably not even playing his best golf of that 4 year stretch we're referencing up until this point, where he probably is playing his best golf.
Yep.
All right, now our next play is gonna be our first crossover, Jake. It's Viktor Hovland, 45 to 1. I was late to getting all these bets in. I was traveling back from Shinnecock Hills, of course. Yes, I'm going to talk about how I was at the U.S. Open for a bit now. So if you're running into me, be ready for that. It was a great time. Either way, missed the cut of the U.S. Open, blah, right? Everyone and anyone did. Can kind of throw that out the window, being the type of golf event it was and everything. But prior to that, third at the RPC Canadian Open a week prior. Missed the cut of the PGA, but he was also 31st at the Truist, 30th at the Cadillac, 42nd at the Heritage, and 18th at the Masters. Last played the Travelers in 24, where he placed 20th. Prior to that, he was 29th and 23, 11th in 2020, so some decent course history. He's currently second on tour on approximate hole from 125 to 175, which were most of your approach shots be coming from this week. He's also 16th on approach, 21st in hit fairways, 34th tee to green, 39th birdie or better, 49th around the green, which, used to be Viktor Hovland's big Achilles heel, was around the green play and short game as a whole, but definitely around the green, where he's a top 50 guy in that stat on the season long stats. So that's great to see. 58th in strokes gained putting, bent grass. Maybe a little bit concerned with the scrambling stats, 71st in scrambling, 117th out of the rough. But I think the rest of the game carries him. He's an elite ball striker, elite approach player. Not much else to say about Viktor Hovland because he can really pour him in when he needs to. And, he won last year on the PGA Tour. Hasn't that third at the Canadian Open kind of was his one kind of real sniff at a chance. We'll see if it comes again this week, but I think this is a great course fit for him. And obviously you believe so too, Jake, with him on your card as well.
Yeah, Nate, I don't think the underlying stats really tell the true story with the results. Like the results have been crappy for Hovland all season long, but the ball striking's been phenomenal. He's a fairway finder, and like you said, he can pour them in with will at these birdie fests. So it's one of those that, yeah, like you said, the RBC Canadian Open was his sole really, like great finish on the season. He had an 18th at the Masters, not much else to write home about, but the stats just they don't tell the story of Viktor Hovland and how well he's actually hitting the ball. So I think that this is a week for that to come true and just be like, hey, this has been here all season and I can finally have a good result and win at a course that fits me really, really well.
Yeah, stats are a great thing to go off of. Of course, we use them each and every week for our models and who we pick and play and all of that. So there's also times where stats, they kind of give us an overlying metric or a measure of what we need to understand. And then it boils down to what the eye test is, right? When you watch Viktor Hovland hit a golf ball, excuse me, it's completely different what the stats may tell you. So again, I think it could accumulate into a victory this week, as we both agree on this, Jake.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to roll my next guy so I don't completely lap you and end up with like four guys to talk about later. My laptop may move here. I'm trying to get my laptop plugged in. So bear with me. I'm unprepared. I'm unprepared. But next play for me is a guy that I don't play too often. I'm not sure if I've even played him so far this season. Kurt Kitayama, 50 to 1. And I haven't realized how good of golf this guy's been playing. He's sixth on tour and approach and approximate the hole from 125 to 175. He is currently seventh green in regulations. He's 10th in par fours, 15th tee to green, 21st bogey avoidance, 33rd off the tee, 52nd hit fairways. If there were to be an issue, of course, Kurt Kitayama with the putter, the flat stick, 126 in strokes gained putting, bent grass, 53rd last week at the U.S. Open. Prior to that, 22nd at the Memorial, 10th at the PGA, 19th at the Truist, 9th at the Cadillac, and 8th at RPC Heritage. So that's what? Two top tens in his last three signature events. I didn't realize how well of golf he was playing. Plus, he made a cut last week at the U.S. Open, which is a feat in itself. That's, very good to do. Last played this event in 24, where he was 21st, missed the cut in 23. But the stats tell me that Kurt Kitayama is the real deal here, and I didn't realize how good of a form this guy was in as well, Jake.
Yeah, Nate, I've been hammering him in DFS recently. Last week made the cut, but didn't really do too much juice anywhere else. But yeah, the underlying numbers for Kitayama have just been fantastic. He was a guy that I thought about for this week. I struggled. I just said I'm not sure if he can make enough putts to really get it
Yeah.
done. But that being said, at Memorial, he gained over a stroke per round with the putter. PGA Championship, just under a stroke per round with that putter. So it looks like he can catch some heat and make enough putts. It just depends on the week. I wasn't willing to take the risk, but again, at the odds you got him at, I can't fault you for going there for Kitayama because the ball striking has just been nuclear.
And that's it. You take a guy like Kitayama, and you're just hoping that the 1 week you are invested in him is the week that putter comes around. Because we've seen him win on the PGA Tour on multiple occasions. And when he does that, of course, the putter's a spike week. Let's see, he won an API, I believe.
Yep.
Uh, he
Three and then
also won something last year, right?
yeah, the 3M.
The 3M. So that's a birdie fest, right? That's when you got to pour him in. He was able to do that. So again, I think it's real chance with the ball striking the elite level of that. What was he, sixth on tour in both approach and proximate hole for 125 to 175? I don't think maybe the putter will be an absolute necessity where you're, hitting within 10 foot every time because again, these are rather easy fairways and rather easy greens to hit.
Yeah, I agree. Moving into my second play here, I caught this line pretty early. I put in the Discord, so shameless plug, join if this sounded interesting to you, but I couldn't pass up on Russell Henley 47 to 1 last night. That
Dude,
got
he's like 29 now or 27
yeah,
now.
he got smoked down. I think a lot of people are on him. He will definitely be on the wheel if that is something that concerns you. But again, 47 to 1 for a guy who won just a couple weeks ago at the Charles Schwab Championship or Challenge in dominant fashion. He really just took that tournament. That was a spike approach week for Russell Henley, and boy, was it a spike. It felt like everything was at
Yeah.
the hole, in the hole. It was just beautiful to watch. We saw that again from Henley this year at the Masters, where he finished T3. He's got the ability to just turn it on with these irons when they're clicking. He could stick it close to the hole, and he's generally a good putter, which means if those irons are clicking this week, which I mean, it's a caveat here. They've kind of cooled off since that Charles Schwab Challenge. At the Memorial, not as good, and then at the US Open, barely positive. But again, I'm sticking with that they're still positive. He's a fairway finder with a very, very solid short game. He's having a fantastic season. He's played the Travelers Championship extremely well throughout his career. You mentioned it before, a runner-up last year. He has two top 19s finishes back in 2021 and 2023. Going even further back in 2018 at a T6 and 2016 at T11. So again, that's five top 25 finishes in his career at TPC River Highlands. He's just, I would say, borderline elite
Hmm.
golf this year. I don't know. That might be a little bit of a point of contention, but at 47 to 1, it was a no-brainer. 21st in strokes gained total, 44th off the tee, 51st on approach, 66th around the green, and 36th with the putter. I wasn't passing up nearly
No.
50 to 1 on that guy.
And that's the thing. Look at me. I'm playing Victor Hovland 45 to 1. I'm playing Kurt Kitayama 50 to 1. And you're playing Russell Henley, who won recently and is, competing at the highest level at 47 to 1. So that's a massive number for Russell Henley. And I don't care what his stats or form look like at 47 to 1. I would, take that in a heartbeat as well. All right. Next play for me. I'm going to stay in the middle of the board for one more time. And I just couldn't get my eyes off this. Justin Rose, 55 to 1. And this middle of the board is kind of intriguing me this week. So I'll be going long after this selection here. Let's see. He was placed 11th last week at the U.S. Open very quietly as well. Like I was even there and I had no clue that he was a top 15 or borderline top 10 guy this week. Part of that missed the cut of the Canadian Open, but then 12th of the Charles Schwab. He also placed 10th of the PGA. He has been He's not been great at this event, though, across his last 6 seasons here. He last played in 24, where he placed 68, so barely made the cut. He also placed 36th in 21 and missed the cut in 2020. But he's currently 11th in tour in green regulations. He's 12th on approach, 33rd in tee to green, 30th in birdie or better, 30th in par fours, 47th in proximate hole for 125 to 175, 73rd in strokes gained putting in bent grass. And again, if there is a concern, 86th around the green, 122 in scrambling. But we've seen Justin Rose, kind of the timeless guy. The concern is, can he keep pace? Can he pour him in? And I believe he can, right? Still at 45, 46 years old. He won earlier this season at the American Express, I believe it was. So he can put up a score and he can get birdies in a hurry. He did it early this season. We've seen him contention a lot. Coming off 11th last week, he was a 10th at the PGA, a 12th at Charles Schwab. Great form, and 55 to 1, I think, is a rather good number, for Justin Rose.
Yeah, Nate, I like the number. I think it's definitely a lot of meat on the bone. He won the Farmers Insurance, by the way.
That's what it was.
Scotty
They're the
won the
same
American.
event. I mixed the
Yeah.
Farmers Insurance, the American Express. American Express was Scotty because I had Andrew Putnam 350 to 1, and he was a runner up.
Yeah. But look, he switched to those McLaren irons that got a lot of heat. That was
Yep.
two really bad finishes at the Cadillac and the Truist. Then he kind of turned it back up at the PGA Championship, the Memorial, the US Open. Those are some big hitter events where he finished, three top. His worst finish was a T12 and those three events. Again, it's just can he pour it in? And I think the answer is yes. So I think 55 to 1 is a huge number on a guy who he's proven he has win equity. He's won twice in his last 25 starts. He won the FedEx St. Jude at
hmm
the end of last season. So again, I can't fault you for that. I like that play a lot.
So you have
Um,
one guy left, right, Jake?
yep.
Okay. I have
Moving
two, so you can go, and then I'll just write off my last two since they're long shots.
perfect. Okay, so my last one is Ryan Gerard, 100 to 1.
Wow. Big number.
Yeah, yeah, I caught it early this morning. I really liked it. He ranked really high on my model. I think it was seventh in my model this week, which was just I was kind of surprised. I haven't really had him on my radar. I know that he's a fairway finding ball striker. In my head, I was like, this guy has no around the green and can't putt. But when I looked at the numbers, the Memorial, he gained over close to 3 strokes per round with the putter. Like, that is nuclear for Ryan Gerard. He finished runner up there. I believe that he was in the lead at some point and kind of blew that away. Or was that the Charles Schwab Challenge the week before where he also gained 2 strokes per round with the putter? So, I mean, again, the putter's been scorching hot again. He missed the cut at the US Open last week. My favorite thing to do, throw it out, really challenging venue.
Yeah.
He's returning to a place that this course should fit him. The irons are so good, the fairway finder, it's just if he could keep that scorching putter from a couple weeks before, I think that he gets his win here. He's won once on the PGA Tour before. I think it was last year, like the Barracuda or like some crappy tournament
Yeah.
like that. But it's time for him to step up, win a signature event. He played this tournament last year, finished T54. So again, just not great. But again, I think he's playing some awesome golf. He's 23rd in strokes gained total, 63rd off the tee, 8th on approach, 135th around the green, and 26th with the putter. 100 to 1 in a limited field event. I was taking my shot.
For sure. And, it wasn't that long ago that at the start of the season, we had Ryan Gerard who rattled off like 4 or 5 consecutive run-up finishes between the DP World Tour and the PJ Tour. And at one point, he bounced the DP World Tour to compete because he wanted a spot in the Masters, and he figured that was the best route to do so, had a run-up performance there. So he could perform, that early season stretch of tournaments are essentially birdie fests, fairway finding birdie fests, things like that. And he competed really well there. Kind of cooled off for a while. Now he's back into a bit of form, but 100 to 1. And again, I talk about this on every podcast. Any 100 to 1 that you bet on, I'm not going to tear you down or talk bad about it because there's a reason they're 100 to 1. And that's a massive number. I can't nitpick, oh, he doesn't have a good approach play. Of course he doesn't. It's 100 to 1. Like, there's nothing to debate there.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, I got two names for you right quick. First one being Jacob Bridgman at 90 to 1, won a signature event already at the Genesis. This is a guy who, he gets birdies in a hurry. I didn't realize he was ninth on tour in birdie or better. He's 10th in par 4 scoring, 13th approximate hole for 125 to 175, 18th in scrambling from the rough, 30th in strokes gained putting bent grass, 35th in bogey avoidance, 42nd on approach. And again, the weakness, he is 111th around the green. But that putter is elite out of Jacob Bridgman. He's a great, top 45 approach player on tour. He's 13th from 125 to 175, scrambles rather well, especially out of the rough, gets birdies in a hurry, and I think that's a great combination here. And I don't know if this is because when I arrived at Shinnecock Hills yesterday, I walked the course originally just to get the bearings of everything and see every single hole, and I just kept running to Jacob Bridgman because he was the one that was playing at the time when I started walking. So I don't know if that name is just fresh in my mind right now, but the stats tell me that he can compete this week. 39th last week of the U.S. Open, 11th at the Canadian Open, 34th at the Memorial. Across his last 3 starts, of course, won the Genesis, a major signature event back at Rivera Country Club, which will host the U.S. Open itself here in a couple of years, I think 2031. He played this event just once prior, 52nd last year in 2025. So we'll see what Jacob Bridgman can bring to the table this week.
Yeah, I really like him a lot. I was between him and one other guy in for a DFS write-up, and I do really still like Bridgman a lot. It'll come down to the irons for him, which is a
Hmm.
bit unique, right? Like the putter is there. It's really rounded out into form over the last 2 weeks again. It kind of cooled down a little bit, but it's back. If those irons could get to that point that we saw earlier in the season, like you said, he's a guy that when he's on the green, I'm not like it was like Sam Burns. Hit the green and I know that you can make a putt, right? Like it's one of those things where that's rare to say because there's a lot of these guys that hit these greens frequently, and it's
Yeah.
like I have 7 feet and I feel like I'm gonna die over this putt versus Bridgman with 15 to 20 feet. I feel better than
Yep.
Scotty over
100%.
7 footer on Sunday at the U.S. Open.
For sure.
Just projecting my feelings there, but again, really like Bridgman. I think the number is huge, and he's rounding himself into some good form here.
Yes, and then my final play here, I'm going really low here. Jacob or Jackson Suber, 225 to 1. Massive number. Look at these stats. 16th in green regulations. He's 18th in proximate hole from 125 to 175. He's 20th on approach, 42nd in stroke gained putting bent grass, 44th tee to green, 47th in birdie or better, 56th in scrambling from the rough, 72nd in a bogey avoidance. I mean, the stats really tell me that this is a great ball striker nonetheless, right out of the gate. He's also 42nd in strokes gained putting bent grass, so he can roll him rather well in this bent grass. He's 89th off the tee, 109th in par fours. Like, there isn't a glaring weakness here. I see top 50 birdie or better player. Missed the cut last week of the U.S. Open. Again, Jake is allowing me to throw that out here. But prior to that, look at this run of form as well. Fourth at the RPC Canadian Open, 67th at Charles Schwab, fourth at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, and 19th at the One Flight Myrtle Beach Classic. Making his tournament debut this week. Again, this is a couple bucks to make a lot at 225 to 1. So again, it's a really good iron player right now, telling me with a decent roll on the bent grass who can get birdies in a hurry and it's a good form.
Yeah, it's a big number in a limited field, Nate. So can't fault you for that at all.
Perfect. All right, Jack. Anything else here to add about this event field? Anything before we move forward?
I'm just have a gut feeling that Scotty is going to kick me in the face this week, but
Yep.
I just had to get that out there.
Nope, that's how I feel every single week. So we're moving on to the DP World Tour side of things. The Italian Open, the DS Automobiles 83 degrees Open d'Italia, if that is what, the small circle above 83 means in Italian, I'm not even sure, but it does here. So the 83rd edition, maybe that's why it's, 83, but either way, the storied Italian Open is upon us as the World Tour returns from a 3-week hiatus. This is a nomadic event that moves itself around various golf courses in Italy. Last year, the event was held at the Argentario Golf Club. Part of that, of course, we saw the Adriatic, and of course, the 2023 event was held at the Marco Simone Golf and Country Club, which also hosted the 23 Ryder Cup. This year, the Sirocco Golf Torino in Fiano, Torino will play host for the first time since 2014. It also hosted this event in 2013 and 1999. So this week also, is the penultimate event of the tour's European swing. The field this week, this is a really strong field. The long-awaited return of Race to Dubai standings leader Patrick Reed to the DP World Tour will be here. He last played on the DP World Tour while still leading the points list back in March for the Joburg Open. So Patrick Reed back, and we have a slew of Live Golf guys. Of course, this was supposed to be the slot for Live Golf Louisiana, I believe, that got postponed or whatever happened to that event. So we have Joaquim Niemann, Jose Luis Ballester, David Puig, Brandon Grace, Elvis Smiley, Tom McKibben, and Thomas Dietrich making their way over to Italy. Some notable DP World Tour guys: Casey Jarvis, Eugenio Shakara, Andy Sullivan, Dan Bradbury, Mikael Lindberg, Daniel Hillier, Bernd Weisberger, Julian Yair, Kata Kanata, and Oliver Lindell will be teaming up as well. Although in a different venue, Adrian Sedair comes in as defending champion, having topped fellow countryman Martin Coover by 2 strokes a season ago. He'll be back this week to defend his title as well. So on to the Circolo Golf Torino Blue Course is one of Italy's most prestigious championship layouts. The course was designed by Englishman John Morrison in 1956. The venue is routed through an ancient hunting grounds of the Savoy royal family. It is laid out amongst slightly undulating terrain, bordered by towering ancient oak trees. Plays a par 72 at 7,210 yards. It was renovated by Canadian architect Graham Cook in preparation for the 1999 hosting of this event, the Italian Open. In preparation to host the National Open, many of the holes were redesigned. It also hosted the Italian Open in both 2013 and 14, as previously mentioned. So off the tee, golfers will face the multitude of strategically placed bunkers, as well as water that comes into play on 10 of the 18 holes this week. Fairways are also narrow and tightly lined by, again, those ancient oak trees. After navigating the trees, bunkers, and water, the rough here at this golf course is lush and will be almost impossible to produce the proper ball flight, spin, or distance out of. The greens are known to be both firm and fast at this golf course and are described as the quote unquote defining feature of this golf course. Proper landing areas of approach for these greens are also small and precise, demanding an accurate shot to hold them. Around the green, golfers will be faced with delicate runoff areas and deep greenside bunkers. Everything we talked about was on display at the 171-yard par 3 13th. Good Lord. The hole features a raised green that is framed on three sides by trees and is protected by both sand and water on the front. That is the course's signature hole. Jake, anything to add here about this golf course and event?
Nope, I think you covered it all.
All right, in full transparency, I do not have any bets in yet for this tournament. Of course, I do have a short list, just haven't had the time since I drove back this morning. We will try to lay some things out, and while I get my bearing straight, Jake, I'll allow you to play your first or announce your first play here.
Yeah, Nate, this is not a route I take often, especially on the DP World Tour. I looked at the board and I said, I usually just skip under 20 to 1. And I say it's just not worth it on the DP World Tour. It's a very random, not like the PGA Tour. But this week I saw 14 next to Joaquin Niemann's name, and that just felt good enough to me. Like we haven't seen these guys in a really, really long time on the DP World Tour. And I was really impressed with Neiman last week. He had an
Very.
11 on a par four that went absolutely viral. Two out of bounds with a penalty stroke for throwing his club and throwing a hissy fit on the hole. Nate, if he double bogeyed that hole, he is in a playoff with Wyndham Clark. He had round two, 65, that tied the low on the day. A round four, 66, that tied the low on the day. He finished T7 with a 7 over par on Thursday. That is phenomenal bounce back. Like I can't emphasize how good that is. Again, the fatigue of playing a US Open and then traveling to Italy and playing in a tournament that might not mean so much to him does concern me, but everything else really points to Niemann's just the class of this field here, and I'm happy to take a 14 to 1. I expected him to be at around 7 or 8 to 1, so getting double that, I was like, I'm gonna do it. The approach has been phenomenal all year. That's just who he is. The putter has been very hit or miss, but when it's hit, he is pouring it in, and it is a beautiful thing to see. Like we saw last week at the U.S. Open, we saw that at Live Korea where he won just a couple weeks ago. We saw that a couple weeks before that at Live Virginia where he finished T8. He's a guy who's been a staple on the Live Tour. As weird as it sounds, he's found a lot of success there. He has 8 wins on that tour, which will no longer be after the season, thank God. But he's plus distance off the tee. He generally isn't too inaccurate. Just a lot of positives, and I'm getting him at a number that I'm comfortable playing. So he's my first one on my card this week.
Yeah, and I think Joaquin Niemann carries a chip on his shoulder because people just think of him as the live merchant, the guy who takes advantage of weaker fields, and maybe he just cares more on live than others. So I think he does carry the chip on his shoulder where he comes to the PJ Tour or the DP World Tour where he has to show up and perform. And I think that's on your side here when it comes to, traveling from New York to Italy is quite a hike, especially grueling what he did. I think he also tied it for the low on Sunday at a 4 under as well. So like doing all that, getting on a plane, hopping clear over to Italy and getting ready for a golf tournament. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is I think he cares more than people may give him credit for because he's carrying that chip on his shoulder that he doesn't just want to be the live guy. He wants to be a, staple across all tours. All right. Again, I don't have any, money out there right now, but a name that is intriguing me is Oliver Lindell, who is, one of the most consistent golfers across his entire DP World Tour season, littering top fives, top tens. And again, this is a guy who seventh on tour around the green. He's 22nd on approach. He's 25th in par fives, 18th in birdie or better. He's 53rd in putting, 40th in scrambling, 71st in accuracy, 63rd off the tee. A 10th, although a different venue, a 10th in Italy a season ago. Good to see that as well. just, when we get these live guys in this field, we get bigger numbers than the guys we do want to bet. Like I've wanted to bet Oliver Lindell plenty of times and Daniel Hilliers and the Angel Yours of the world, but they're always, you know, 12 to 16 in that range, and I'm not touching them, right? So we're getting a chance at Oliver Lindell at 35 to 1, who is kind of one of the class of the DP World Tour. Again, don't officially have anything out there yet. Research isn't completely done, but it's a name I have an eye on.
Yeah, Nate, I like it. The off the tee scares me a little bit, but everything else really doesn't. The approach is awesome. The putter has been nuclear for him, and a lot of really good finishes and a good finish in Italy last year, like you mentioned. So I like that short list. He was on mine as well. So he didn't make my card, but I do really like him this week.
Yeah, I must say though, I talked about this with you before the tournament and or the podcast, excuse me. I am kind of possibly eyeing the way that you built your card, and Thomas Dietrich has my full attention right now. Again, he has played some DP World Tour and has played really well in the DP World Tour. Has been very good on Live as well in terms of like overall placements. I think he's second to like John Rahm so far in the season. So he's playing some good golf there, checking some boxes as well. So we'll see what comes of it. I don't know what his odds currently are. What are they, like 20? So yeah, he's 20. So that's a big number for Thomas Dietrich. So again, when I get done this podcast and edit it before I bet, I will sit down and place my card. But those are two names right there, Dietrich and Lindell, who kind of have my interest at this time.
Yeah, and what we've seen in Italy is that the putter, when that runs hot, that usually really, really helps at in Italy for some reason at this
Mhm.
event. You need a scorching hot putter, and Dietrich has spiked with the putter on multiple occasions in recent history, just on the live tour. So I looked at him too, but went a different route. But moving here into my second play, I went with Anton Rosner. He I've bet him a ton on the DP World Tour. I think the win is coming. I hope it's sooner rather than later. But it's been a little bit of a disappointing run. Again, we haven't seen these guys in a really long time, but this is a guy who played in Italy really, really well throughout his career. A 10th in 2020, a 52nd in 2021, 16th in 2022, 21st in 2023, and a T5 in 2024. He was on the PGA Tour last year, so did not tee it up. But the irons are coming back into form. And what do we know about Rosner? He's got distance off the tee and the irons are scorching. It comes down to that putter. I think that the approach play can carry a guy like this, as proven previously. He just needs to find something with the putter, and at 58 to 1, I'm happy to take my shot on him to find something there, just putt to even.
Yeah, Antoine Rosner, of course, always coming with the scorching hot irons. That's just his game. It's just everything else can be so hit or miss at times. And when it comes together, we've seen him win the DP World Tour. Of course, I think he won the Marathon Open one year and things like that. So he has the ability to do it. Made himself to the PGA Tour a season ago before coming back to the DP World Tour. So again, he's got the firepower in his bag. Just has to kind of put it all together.
Yep.
All right, next interest that I have right here is a fellow countryman. That's Martin Kuvra, who Jake and I have talked at nauseum about how we feel like he's an elite talent in the DP World Tour. We're just kind of waiting for that talent to finally, he's won, right? But waiting for that kind of just accumulate and have a full stretch of what we believe Martin Kuvra can do. I'm seeing a 68 on him right now, which is a huge number with a second place finish in Italy a season ago. 20th around the green, 22nd off the tee, 74th on approach, 69th putting, so some good stats, 12th in scrambling. Again, just a guy that has some success in Italy as of recent, really good success, with a pretty big number next to his name at 68.
Yeah, Nate, I looked at him. The putters just run a little cold for him, but again, for the millionth time, we haven't seen these guys in like a month. It's crazy.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Like,
Yeah,
it's a really hard tournament to bet when you haven't seen most of this field play in so long. Like, this is an extended break. Have these guys been on the practice range and getting practice rounds in, or have they been spending some time with the family or going on vacation or just having drinks with the boys? Like, I don't know what these guys are up to. So, again, Kuvra, a young guy, strikes me as someone who's on the course grinding, especially with the putter, not in some great form, but like you said, runner up here last year. Big number at 68, and I can't fault you for having him on your short list.
for sure.
Into my last play here, it's Davis Bryant, 125 to 1. Just a big number and a guy who the approach has been clicking. And this is a guy who generally finds fairways. So that to me was important this week. Everything else, he's just for lack of better terms, he's freaking boring. He makes cuts, he's around even and everything else, and you're just like, do something. Like spike with something to help me here. Like give me a good putting week or an around the green week that could really propel you to have an insane finish. When this guy gains a quarter of a stroke per round with the putter, he finished T2 at the Austrian Alpine Open. So it's one of those where I just need a little life from the short game from him at 125 to 1 to potentially be able to win. He has two runner-up finishes on the season, like I just mentioned at the Austrian Alpine Open, and then earlier in the season at the Magical Kenya Open. He finished 10th at this event last year. Was just a big number I wasn't willing to pass up on for a guy whose irons are really getting into that I can win form where I just need one other thing to click and I'll feel much better about him actually being able to win.
For sure. And a guy really young still, right? The American there, 125 to 1 in this field is a crazy number. And you talked about it. There's a slight bump of the putter puts him in contention. So you just, hope and pray that that's this week and everything else is still fine on all cylinders. All right. One more name I'm kind of eyeing at this point. I do like JC Ritchie. He's got some good, stats to him, but he's still, 65, 66. He's still around these names like a Dan Bradbury, who I'd much prefer, was one of the DP World Tour so far this season. Also a third last year in Italy, a 10th the year before. The iron play is always there for Bradbury, 16th there, 23rd off the tee. And, it boils down to the putter with him, 107 or 108th in putting, 75th around the greens. The short game isn't ideal for Dan Bradbury. Off the top of my head, I don't have his current form, but a third last year in Italy, a 10th, the season prior. Always a good iron player. I also have Jacob Skova who's taken a peek at my interest, but the irons are kind of cold right now, in my opinion. Waiting for that to come back. You have, of course, Gregorio De Leo, who, if you are a avid avoider of the Wheel of Death, whatever you want to call that, he's going to be number one by a country mile. So you might want to steer off there. But then, yeah, just the JC Ritchie's the world who hasn't won the DP World Tour, the Ugo Casads, who, the same price that we're getting at these Dan Bradburys, around the same price as Martin Coover, which I would just much prefer, the win equity of a Coover Bradbury over Cusad or Ritchie.
Yep.
For sure. All right, Jake, anything out here about the Italian Open?
No, let's find a winner maybe.
It's been a little bit now, got a little cold here, but yeah, we hit a little bit there, and now we're in a bit of a stretch. But yeah, this is the time of the season where, last year was kind of the same thing for me. I was, kind of dead up until, kind of this point, and hit a bunch of winners down the stretch and had a fantastic season. So your season's never over until it's actually over. So let's start it now, Jake. Maybe a double Victor Hovland can get us rolling in the right direction again. Jake, we're moving on social media.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at JakeOOTR, where I share all my outright betting cards. I'd also encourage you to join the Out of the Rough Discord. It's 100% free to join with no hidden paywalls. The community includes 275 plus members and is an excellent free resource to have at your disposal. Just reach out to Nate or myself on X and we will get you the link to join.
Yes, and be sure to follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at NateOOTR. Find Out of the Rough on all of social media. To search Out of the Rough, you'll find us there. If you're watching this or listening to whatever outlet you're listening to, if there's any form of interaction, subscriptions, likes, comments, any form of interaction definitely helps get these podcasts out to more and more eyes and our ears. So we'd greatly appreciate that. OOTRough.com is our website. All the articles, all the way from the PGA Tour down to the DP World Tour, Hotel Planet Tour, everything in between, we do have you covered there. A lot of great information as well. Check out the Discord, and we'll see you all next week.